Hello.
Let's talk about, let's have a chat about see, I can't even say it, geodatabases,
Yeah,
right?
it is not our most thrilling talk, but something you need to know.
It is, because you need to know how to manage your data.
Yeah.
So this video is going to be a little different. We're not going to show a whole lot of examples. We're just going to talk. So it's been years since I was in an organization where I actually had to be managing data for more than just me. So my needs are different. But Bonnie, obviously being in an enterprise GIS, very different. So we're going to talk about some issues.
Yeah.
Uh, Data. So um, first off, how is it different? How do you see it different when you're doing GIS just for you, where you are the whole contained vessel of GIS, as opposed to in an organization?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because my organization, I'm the only one. So on an organization level, I don't have to share data for the most part. But you do have to think in terms of if things grow, you want to set it up so that it is easier to share like that. So, um, one of the big things, I guess, if I'm doing it for personal, then it's going on like my C drive on my computer. And if I'm doing it for the organization, it goes on a network drive
Well,
so
I think
that
you hit on one
they,
of the biggest
oh,
things is that planning for the future with your data.
mhm,
And when we get in trouble is when it's just like, oh, here I made this data set and I'll just save it. Made this data set, save it. Made this data set and I save it. And then you add somebody else and you know what all of them are and you know where they are, hopefully. And then
yeah.
somebody else comes into the organization and they say, well, so where's this data? And they go, oh, it's simple. And then you realize it's not simple. I've made a mess.
Well, I also have a spreadsheet of all of our data layers that talks about, what is it, point line polygon, when was it made, where did it come from? If it came from somewhere else, did I digitize it? Did I geocode it? And then the path to get to it so that even sometimes I've been there 27 years. Sometimes I can't remember where I put something. And there are data sets that go with multiple departments. So typically I categorize by department, but then who knows which one I was thinking of at the time. So I've got my spreadsheet, which is my little cheat sheet. So you can look it up and go, oh, that's where I put it. Okay. So I
So
recommend that as
that's
well.
metadata,
Yeah.
and we haven't talked about metadata, but metadata is the information about your data.
Yeah.
Um, and that can keep you out of a world of hurt.
Yeah. Well, and when Esri speaks of metadata, they speak of their tool and where you can put metadata into their tool for each layer. And that's helpful. I guess I do a metadata with my list. So
And if you improve
just
it,
a,
it's
a,
a
di-
it's
a different kind.
beta metadata. That doesn't
But
work.
same types of things, like what kind of
Yeah.
file it is, how was it generated, that sort of thing.
So some things as far as um, some good practices.
Yeah.
One that Bonnie was talking about is centralizing your data storage. And so what we use in class and what we use in the book is a personal geodatabase. But
Yes.
I would say the vast majority of GIS work is done on an enterprise GIS with an
Yeah.
enterprise geodatabase.
And actually now it's not even called personal geodatabase,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
called
that's right.
file
File.
geodatabase. But it's the same thing. Yeah, the enterprise GIS, I we have just started using it, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, but it is another way to centralize where the data resides.
And the
Yeah. And you
performance
can
is
set
better.
permissions and stuff like that. Like if it's public works data, can let only the public works people see it. Or, sometimes some data needs everybody to see it. So it's a good way to manage data and access to data.
One of the things that is suggested is implementing naming conventions. And
Um,
so, like the official version is adopt a standardized, consistent naming convention to identify data type, project, and date, avoiding spaces and special characters.
Yeah, I have learned this over the years. So the no spaces and no special characters is huge. Because if you're going to make something, you don't want to make it and then have the GIS not be able to read it or not be able to utilize it. That's wasted work and you don't want that. So that's an easy one. In terms of naming, so I used to do like you get a project for the storm drain at 21st Street, and I would do 21st Street storm, underscore storm drain. So you do that for all of the like six different ones. And pretty soon it's like, well, what was that? What was that? Now, the way I name them is it's storm underscore and then the address. That way, when I'm looking at it in a file explorer or in the geodatabase, um, all of the storms are together, all of the sewers are together. So I know I can at least narrow down my search and not have to, because really 27 years is a lot. So yeah, that's a big one that I found that, yeah, I screwed it up a little bit because I
Yeah.
didn't think in terms of the future. It was just like, oh, this is what it is. Here's the name. Like, no, 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 no. Somebody's going to come back in 5 years and go, can we just change it a little? And you go,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I don't know."
Yeah. The worst is when you find out the offender is yourself.
Yeah.
Crud.
Yeah.
I've got
So
myself
what
in
I'd
trouble.
recommend is like go category first and then specific project or yeah, start with the category. So, and like I also said, I've got different folders for different departments. So that also helps to find things.
And when it comes to using standard naming conventions, especially in a big organization, like let's talk huge, like LA County,
Yeah.
where you have all these different people hitting the same data, well,
Um,
just you can make life easy. But the same is true even if you just have a couple people working with it. That
mhm.
later on, should be able to look at it and say, oh, we're both working on similar projects. We used similar naming conventions. And if somebody else has to work on my project and make changes to it later on, or even later today, they can do it without having to decipher things.
Yeah, that would be another thing I'd say as you're working with other people, see how they name stuff, see what their conventions and their sort of standards are, because you may find something and you go, wow, oh, I really like that, and then you can adopt it yourself. So there's always something better going on out there, and it's good to be
Yeah.
able to adjust like that.
But remember, we've always done it this way. Change is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we started in GIS, the way we stored data even was different. The types of data that we stored was
Yeah.
different. And anyway, it
Yeah.
changes and it gets more often it gets better a
Yeah.
lot than worse.
It usually gets more efficient. So
And about that no spaces, no special characters thing, my understanding is those are database rules. And
mhm.
like you have field names and things like that, that if it sees a space, it now assumes it's talking about a different field or a different file. And also like dollar sign, ampersand, question mark, those are all special characters that have meaning in a database for
Yeah.
special things. So you don't use them in your file. That's why. That's why.
Yeah, that's the root of where it comes from for sure.
And it's something that it's less of a problem than it used to be. But my advice always is unless you really know the rules for that stuff, just follow it. Just stick with the standard, no spaces and use underscores. Underscores are great.
I get it though now, because you use Word or you use Excel and you can have spaces in that and it's
Yeah.
not a problem at all. So I understand that it's the GIS naming convention is a little more restrictive, but it really does come from a database perspective, and there is method behind the madness.
Yeah. And at least like in your field names, there's a lot of times like when you download data, it comes in as value one, value two, and horrible things like that, which usually then there's a README file with it or an Excel file with it that explains what it really is. So, you know, that's fine. And you can use the aliases to
Mhm.
put real names that you would like, and those real names can be verbose. They can say, um, this is the information that Joe sent me, spelled out with spaces and everything. So
Yeah.
anyway, not so bad. Um, okay. Oh, and also as far as naming conventions, so I wanted to show a little example here. So
Okay.
this will just take a minute.
I wanted to
So this
mention
is
too
in
the,
Pro.
the geodatabase is really helpful in that you can store the points, lines, polygons. You can store tables. You can store imagery. You can store a lot of different things in a geodatabase because it's all spatial data. Um, so it's a handy container if you think of it that way. So
I
okay, go
found it
ahead.
really helped me clean stuff up,
Yeah,
plain and simple. So,
yeah.
okay, so let me do a little example here. We're going to look at our city council districts in my lovely town of Lomita. Using the enrichment tool, it doesn't matter. This is just for the example of what's going to come up. Council districts. Yeah, look here. I have a council districts and a council districts one. It's like, whoa, that's not
Yeah.
great. But anyway, so and then what do you get as the output? But I get council districts underscore enrich two, which means there must be already a council districts enrich one, and there is, and I know what it is, and it's a garbage file. So Bonnie and I were talking about this earlier. My standard is I will take the defaults. If it's something, I'm going to take this output, immediately either look at it and discard, or I'm going to take something out of it and save it out separately and discard. In other words, I don't
Yeah.
do it if I'm going to save it.
Yeah. But if you are going
So
to save it, you would want to go like underscore population or whatever.
yeah, so I'm going to do council districts enrich. Um, and then what do I want to do? Spending data. So now I have something, if I run that, which I don't have any files in it, now I'll have a result that would be something useful. And also, as long as we're at it, don't forget over here, like, okay, this one says street center lines with that kind of funky thing. If I wanted this in my legend or something, I can just, you can
Yeah.
change these.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is both of your council districts have a space. So they're going, I thought they said no spaces. The data has no spaces, but in your table, in your contents pane,
Yes.
you can put the space. So, because that's how you want it to look when you do a legend in your map.
Yeah, if we look at the
So,
properties of
but yeah,
that,
the underlying data does not have a space.
see, there it is, council district, right? Council districts. Let's see. But here I can change this to be anything that I want. Berries, yes, with typo there. Crazy idea of the day, and that'd be fine. I'm not going to do that, but anyway. See, my ADD, or I guess that's
OCD.
OCD. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to go back and fix that, even though I'm about to hit escape and make it go away. Yeah. So, but use those when you do your outputs, use decent names for them and you'll be glad.
Yeah.
And then I think well, let me look back at the list here of what we had. Oh, metadata. Um,
Yeah, I mentioned metadata a little bit earlier with like dates and how you got the source and how, is it a geocode? Is it this or that? Another big one that people like to have in there is the projection. So, especially if you're sharing outside of your organization, you want to include what projection your data is in. Even though, yes, if it has a projection file, it's not as big of a deal, but it is nice to note that in your metadata.
yep. Let me just show this then in in ArcGIS Online. So here's some data sets that I have. There we go. Can you see that now? Okay. Um, and so these are things which I have them. And see, this is from the top 20 for ArcGIS Online. So yes, there's another
Oh,
one. And I have things sorted here by different uses. These are business analyst files and so on. But I have my tutorial that I did here. And so, like if I look at this layer, shelter in 15 minutes. So this tells me what it is that was created, where it was created from, and I typed that in, by the way. That is not automatically generated. I put that in. So,
yeah,
um, and I did that for my own benefit
yeah,
as well, so I can use this stuff. This is a lot of what I use. So this from business analysts, I'll take the data out of that. And so, see, I have many applications here that I've created, um, and all sorts of things I've played around with. And then I do put in the data that goes with them, and it saves me a lot of trouble.
nice.
One other thing that I wanted to mention, where was it? Back to my notes. That's not them. Oh, yeah, this one uh, that I noticed at the bottom of this list. Efficient project cleanup. Remove unused layers, use scale-dependent rendering, and delete intermediate data to speed up performance. I would say the scale-dependent rendering, where as you zoom in, you see more, yeah, that's fine. But I don't think that's as important as getting rid of those unused layers, because otherwise your project just,
Yeah.
it's a mess.
And then you'll come back later and you'll be like, what is that? Well, I don't know. I could probably delete it. It's like, but you don't know. So
Right.
can you delete it? And then you keep it.
Or
So
like, let's say you've made a layer file off of another existing layer that you have, then you say, oh, I don't need this one anymore. Let me actually delete it. Well, your layer file is actually pointing to that. So if you remove it from the project, you can get away with that because it can still find it. But if you actually go and delete it, now this says, I don't know what you're talking about. So that is the problem with layer files.
eh,
Yeah, it's a thing.
yeah, there's
So that's, I think that's about it for data management.
yeah.
Everything you wanted to know, but didn't want to ask. So, all
And
right,
even things you didn't want to know, but
that's
now
right.
you do.
All right, get to work.
All right. Bye.